Earlier on today's day stream, DSP had made some comments regarding his finances that I felt would be a good idea to address. I don't know if this was in response to my July roundup video. I don't know if he watches that sort of thing, but regardless, there were some observations he made that I felt would be important to point out. So let's get right into it.
Anyway, let's get the shout outs here. Snow Carl started today with a $1.30 tip. He says that the fact you've actually made more money on YouTube than Twitch proves that content creators can do just as well, if not better, on other sites than Twitch by hard work, smart fundraising, and dedication to your audience. Twitch is in the past. First of all, that is incorrect. I am making way less when it comes to the amount that I'm making through streaming. And what I mean by that is memberships versus subs and super chats versus cheers. I was making way more on Twitch on a monthly basis than I am right now through YouTube. It's dramatically less. I'm not going to tell you exactly how much, but let me put it this way. It's dramatically less. Like a giant chunk less. Okay? Now, thankfully, people have been very generous with tips, and that's helped to balance out some of that. If they hadn't, I mean, I would have been screwed. I mean, they were talking a loss of a lot of income. And I don't know how I would have, made ends meet. Excuse me. But that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, if I didn't have a special event last month to pay my mortgage, and if you guys weren't rallying to help me with tips and stuff, I would not be able to even afford my basic stuff. See?
So the first part of that I wanted to address was regarding his Twitch income versus his YouTube income. Now, I did not myself start recording the numbers until he was departnered, right? So that would have been April 22nd and onward. So we have to rely on some of the folks over at Kiwi Farms that had helped record it prior. Now, a lot of the data kind of fell off mid-2020 and afterwards, so we're relying on kind of older data. So we're going to make some assumptions here, right? One thing that we do know, for the most part, was that his subs on Twitch prior to the departnering was approaching the kind of like the 1,000 mark, right? I think he had hit 900, something from gifted subs mostly prior to that. And so, if we make an assumption, right, 1,000 subs, let's say he would have hit 1,000 subs by now. So that'd be 2,500, right? So 5,000, he gets a 2.5, $2.50 cut of that. And so, and then in terms of his bits, we've only got kind of this legacy data. So I'm going to go ahead and just say 2,000, some sort of average in the middle here, right? Could have been a little bit more, could have been a little bit less. I don't know, but let's say that. $4,500 per month from Twitch, anticipated, right? If we look at what we have him pulling from YouTube this last month for July, we have him getting 2,800 super chats and memberships, 1,200 and climbing. He's getting a lot of memberships coming up. The big issue here, right, is that when you compare it to Twitch's bit system, when you purchase bits, the user, right, the viewer, will pay for the cut, right? Twitch's cut when they purchase the bits prior to giving them out to anybody, right? So I can purchase $100 in bits, and Twitch doesn't know who I'm going to give it to, but I've paid the fee, and when I give the bits to the the creator, right, like DSP, they receive 100% of the value of those bits. Now for YouTube, that's not the case. For YouTube, it's well known. It's right out in the open. YouTube takes exactly a 30% cut of any amount earned via super chats as well as memberships, right? So after we take the fees off of these two here, we're left with something like $2,800, right? And so he's correct in saying that he was making more on Twitch compared to YouTube, something like $1,700 more, right? So 4,500 versus 2,800. But when we look at the total amount that he's pulling, that the difference between the two is it's not a ton. It's an okay amount, but he's making it out to be that it's this insanely extravagant amount when it isn't, right? So So that's the first thing. I'm also not really going to comment yet. There's a lot to say, but I'm not going to comment yet on him making the claim that if if his tips didn't rally, that he wouldn't be able to afford his basic stuff, as he would say. I'll save that for my expenses video, which I'm still doing research on at this point. I want to make sure that I've got all the facts, at least the public facing facts, correct for that. So look forward to that. But anyone who actually has bills in real life would look at the amount that he's making, and it would be a little suspect based on what we do know about his where he lives, his lifestyle. Again, there's a lot of his financial information that was made public during his bankruptcy, so we do have access to that. But anyway, moving on.
So it's because you guys have helped me a lot with tips recently that things are okay. But overall, the amount of money that I'm making is not as much. Overall, every month now since I've left Twitch, it's been less money than when I was on Twitch. So what you're saying is completely false. Sounds like you're listening to some narrative, some idiots who think that they know how to count the income that I'm making. They don't. You got to remember a ton of factors, all right? You do. Here's just a few of them, okay? Number one, you have absolutely no idea how much of an actual cut I'm making from memberships and super chats. I don't even know, because it's a weird formula on YouTube. It's different from how it was on Twitch, and it's not possible to see on the fly like how much you're making from each thing, all right?
So I have to admit that segment in particular was pretty irritating to me, because, as usual, DSP went on a total attack of basically my intelligence, right? Me being the person who's actively tracking. Couple things he said. You have no idea how much of a cut I'm making from memberships and super chats. I don't even know. I being DSP, right? That it's not my fault that you don't know how to do any research or due diligence into finding out how much you make for your business. Obviously, this is taking at face value that he doesn't know, that he's not just completely obfuscating or attempting to obfuscate how much he earns, right? So we do know. Simple Google search. I don't have access myself to the terms of membership or whatever, because my channel isn't monetized. But here's an excerpt from it. Google will pay an amount equal to 70% multiplied by the greater of blah blah blah. So basically, the long and the short of it is, Google takes 30%, the creator gets 70%. That's for super chats. It's the exact same thing for memberships. Again, simple Google search. I consider this a decent source. So anyway, so that's that. YouTube takes a 30% cut, period, of memberships and super chats. Again, common information at this point as far as I'm concerned. He mentioned that it's a weird formula that's different from Twitch. I'd argue it's not a weird formula. It certainly is different from Twitch, but it's not really a weird formula. And going to my tips tracker here, for the page specific for net income, I factor that in, right? So if we look at YouTube, the blue column is going to be the gross income that I've calculated, and the way that this is going to work is the yellow is the net income, and I have a formula that is being applied against this. So the formula in particular is going to be 0.7, right? So minus YouTube's 30% cut against the YouTube earned amount specifically for super chats and membership. So it's looking at this this sheet here, and it's calculating the 70% share from these two numbers, because ads, while already a estimation, is not going to be affected by that. All the YouTube cut part of it is preloaded into the figure, so it's not affected. So it's very, very specific for the formula that YouTube is using. Data fidelity, right, to me, is extremely important. So I make it my best effort that the numbers being provided are accurate and trustworthy and unbiased. So let's move on to the next segment.
I can tell you right now, I'm making way less on memberships and on super chats than I was on the subs and on the cheering. There was just way more subs over on YouTube, and people cheered way more often than they super chat here on YouTube. I'm just being honest. They did. So that's a huge loss, okay? Now, in addition to that, people like to say, oh, well, what about the tips? Yeah, you can try to count the tips, but you got to understand many different factors. Like, for example, fee structure is completely different depending on the size of the tip, depending on where the tip's coming from. So, for example, a person tipping $1 in the United States, I make a different amount of that than someone who's tipping $5 from the UK. And I make a different amount on that than I would make from someone tipping $20 from, I don't know, Canada. It's all different. It's all different structure. There's fees involved. There's all this shit.
So the calculations for PayPal fees themselves aren't, they're not particularly confusing or difficult to grasp, the concept of. So, let's look at him, right? He's making a statement that, you can count the tips, but, the fees are just totally obfuscated. Let's see. Looking at the fees, right? You've got a percentage amount, 2.89%. All right, it's going to be applied to, this is like across the board, plus a fixed fee. Now, what he's saying is that, a international tip with a different country of origin outside of the US is going to have a different fee applied, which is true, right? And so let's look at that. So if we look at the fixed fees, and they're going to be different depending on the country of origin. So a US based tipper, they're going to have that 2.89% plus a 0.49 cent flat fee on top of that individual transaction. So he's almost making it sound like if it's an international donation, it's basically 100% of the time going to be, more expensive, right? Which with the currency conversion, maybe, but not really, right? So I'll actually talk about this part first to get it out of the way. So there's a 4% currency conversion fee, it looks like, just straight up. So if I donated $100 worth of British pounds, then $4 of that would be just cut right off the top, right? In addition to the other fees. $4 out of 100. All right, so if you have a $200 tips goal, that's $8 for this particular fee. And then the rest is kind of irrelevant, right? And the reason why that's the case is I've got basically, I think these are the three most common countries of origin I see it come from. So what I did was I just looked at the flat fee off here. So, I've got British pounds, I've got Canadian dollars, so 59 Canadian cents, right? And then you've got British pounds, 0.39, and then euros are probably the other most common. That's 0.39 of that. So what I did was I just plugged it into a currency conversion calculator, right? So if we have 0.39 pounds sterling, that's 54 cents, US cents, right? So again, the standard here for US is 49 cents. So yes, it's 5 cents more, right, per transaction for a UK donation. If we look at, Canadian, it's 47 US cents. So that's actually less, right? So it's less in this particular case. Obviously, it's going to depend on the currency conversion rates, right? Depending on how strong or weak the US dollar is compared to whatever local currency it is. And then if we look at euros, 39, euro cents, and it's converted to 46 US cents. So anyway, the point I'm making is that, he's trying to confuse you, as he always is. And to be honest, for me at least, the confusion isn't the fact that the stuff that he's saying isn't difficult to grasp. It's the fact that his words just blend together. And if after listening to him for a long enough period of time, it's like your brain in an act of self-preservation tries to turn itself off. Like you don't even know that it's happening, right? So that's, for me at least, that's where the majority of the confusion comes in. But no, absolutely not. This is very, very simple to calculate with the information that he provides in regards to tips. Now, if you wanted to shut this down, DSP, if you're listening, if you really wanted to shut this down, all you got to do is not show tips anymore. Just completely ignore the people that tip you. I'm sure plenty of your big tippers, these guys here, assuming they're different people, would give you money anyway. regardless of whether or not you actually showed where the source was. So please do that, so I don't have to do this anymore. But anyway, each individual tip is being tallied because that's important in regards to the flat fee calculation. So this is actually very accurate, as accurate as I can make it. Now I don't factor in that currency conversion in this case because I don't have the ability to do that. When he receives a tip, it's received in US dollars, so I don't know where it's coming from. The way that I can actually see super chats that come in from different places, and the majority of what he gets is US dollars, at least in regards to super chats, right? The majority, at least 50% plus, I'd say, come in the form of US dollars. But yeah, so I'm not going to do that because I'm already rounding in his favor for basically every other thing. So I don't see it being necessary in this case. I'm still underestimating. Anyway, let's move on.
So there's all these factors. Just because you see, oh, Phil made, wow, looks like Phil today on stream, he made, he hit the goal today. Yeah, it might say I hit my tips goal. It doesn't mean I actually got that. In fact, I would tell you this, 10 times out of 10, whatever it says I made, I didn't make because of the fees and everything involved. If I go over, like for example, today, if I make like $175 on this stream, then I'll essentially probably have made enough to cover the 150 goal that I had. You see, it's always less. But people who are assholes, who like to stalk me and claim that they know what they're talking about, track everything and think that everything's 100% contribution. They don't understand there's fees and that YouTube takes a cut of everything that I make and that it's way less than what I was making on Twitch. And also on top of that, they try to think that the tips are 100% when they're not. And then, like I said, you don't even know about chargebacks and stuff behind the scenes that I've stopped talking about entirely to try to make that not happen anymore. Okay? So there's a lot of factors. The truth is, absolutely every month since I've not been on Twitch, I've made less money.
Okay, so let's break down this part. Man, I don't even know where to start. Okay, all right. So 10 times out of 10, whatever it says I made, I didn't make it. Okay, as somebody with a job, right? And for all of you out there who have jobs or have had jobs, when we talk to people about how much we make, oh, hey, how much do you make, right? How much do you make per hour at your job, right? You'll generally give a what? A pre-tax figure, a pre-anything figure, because that's what you do, right? You don't say, let's say I make $16 an hour or something, and I calculate all my taxes and my expenses and all this stuff, and I subtract it, and then I end up with $13.13 an hour. Do I go to people and say I earn $13.13 an hour, or do I say I make $16 an hour? I want you to think about that in the context of what DSP is saying. But anyway, 10 times out of 10, whatever it says I made, I didn't make. That's true. That's true. One of the reasons that's true is because DSP rounds his tips down 100% of the time. So when he gets a $1.30 tip, he rounds it to $1. Right? So if he received $100 worth of $1.30 tips, what would it say on the leaderboard? Would it say 130 or would it say 100? If you recall, he strategically made his minimum tip amount $1.30 for this exact reason, right? For that 30 cents to cover the fee at that time at least, which was 30 cents. So he honestly has no business making any sort of claim about that at all. Like, he's factored that in. You don't get to have your cake and eat it too, right? Which is what he's always trying to do. But when I'm tracking, I'm actually tracking the actual amount he received. There's always a difference. There's always a difference of several dollars, right? $5+ per stream that he's rounded against, and boy, oh boy, does that add up over time. And so this is technically money that he's obfuscating as well, right? Again, he's factored in that fee money into his own pricing structure, right? Pretty crazy. It will take $175 to cover his 150 tips goal. So what he's saying is, For him to earn $150, for his current tips goal, he would need to receive $175 in tips. So he's saying he would pay $25 in fees for $175 in tips, which is not correct. It's just flat out not correct, right? So if you do the math and you divide it in, it's like 16%. He's saying there that his fee structure is 16%, which it isn't. We've seen what it is, right? It's 4% for currency conversion, 2.89% right off the top. Then you got that flat fee, 49 cents now in this case. So no, he's rounding in his favor to make it look like he's not earning as much as he does. Of course, naturally, right? He made a comment. They being possibly me, they don't understand that there are fees and YouTube takes a cut of everything, and that he's earning way less on YouTube than Twitch. It doesn't matter if you're earning less or more on YouTube versus Twitch. Okay, we're talking about numbers here, DSP. Okay, whether you're earning more or less, the numbers, if you earned $100,000 a month on Twitch and then you earn $75,000 dollars a month on YouTube, hypothetically, right? That's not going to change the fact that you're still earning $75,000 on YouTube. And in this particular case, so anyway, yeah, and he makes a comment there at the end about chargebacks or whatever. So I'm not even going to comment on that. Chargebacks he can use on a whim to say that he's not earning anything. We've seen in the past when he gets charged $50 or whatever for a year's worth of some subscription that he forgot to cancel because he's a responsible adult. How much he complains about that. We get 2 tweets, we get 15 minutes of the pre-stream yelling at somebody, and so I'll leave it up to you to buy whether or not chargebacks really happen. Maybe they do. I don't know. But again, shooting himself in the foot. He made a very, very clear claim, right, that he only accepts verified tips, which apparently protect you from chargebacks. So again, past DSP is haunting future DSP as usual. But anyway, this video I believe is probably longer than I originally intended it to be. So apologies for that. But please feel free to let me know in the comments if you have any questions. Again, I'm still working on the expenses video and all that good stuff. So we'll have that rolling out when I've got that completed. But I appreciate you all listening to me ramble on, and you take care.